Alright, so a lot of you have been asking for this. For a while now, actually. I get a lot of stories about haunted schools, abandoned hospitals, the usual stuff. But many of you have asked for stories about what happens when you're traveling, when you're far from home, out of your element, and you run into something that isn't right. This story is one of those. It was sent to me by someone who asked to remain anonymous, but he wanted his experience shared as a warning. It's about a trip that went wrong in the worst way imaginable. It's about how a simple act of kindness can be a mask for something ancient and hungry. This is a story about a game of cards in a small village with strangers who might not have been human at all. So, let's get into it. The person who sent this in, we'll call him Leo. This happened back in September of 2024. Leo, who's from Hong Kong, was doing a semester abroad at a university in Seoul. He was 22, and like a lot of students, he was on a tight budget. He figured he was smart, could read people, and thought of himself as a seasoned traveler, not a tourist. The big Chuseok holiday weekend was coming up. It's like Korean Thanksgiving, and everything gets incredibly busy. He decided to avoid the crowds and go on a solo hiking trip in Gangwon province. It's mountainous, beautiful, very rural. He wanted that authentic, off-the-grid experience. It was a Thursday afternoon, the day before the main holiday. He'd planned to catch the last bus from a small transit town to a bigger city where he had a hostel booked. But he misread the holiday schedule. The last bus had already left. Just like that, he was stranded. His phone was at 10% battery. A cold, steady drizzle started to fall, soaking through his thin jacket. The town was tiny, just a handful of streets, and the one small inn was completely full. You could feel that pre-holiday energy in the air, families gathering, but for him, it just felt isolating. He was a stranger, and it was getting dark. He remembers the exact moment the panic started to set in. He was standing under a little awning, the rain dripping down, watching his phone battery tick down to 9%. He was completely, totally stuck, and that's when she appeared. An old woman, a hominy, hunched over from age, carrying a basket of vegetables. She saw him, this obvious foreigner looking lost and miserable. She didn't speak any English, and his Korean was basic at best, but through simple gestures, pointing at him, then at the darkening sky, then making a motion for him to follow, he understood. She was offering him a place to stay. He was so relieved, it felt like a miracle. He followed her up a narrow, winding path away from the main village to an old, traditional house, a hanok, sitting by itself on a small hill. It was made of a dark, heavy wood that seemed to soak up the light, and the air inside was still and smelled of old paper, wood smoke, and something else. Something vaguely like damp soil. She showed him to a small, clean room with a sleeping mat on the floor. Through gestures, she asked for a small amount of money, far less than any hostel would charge. Leo paid her gratefully, his anxieties melting away. He thought this was it, the authentic experience he'd been looking for. A kind old woman, a traditional house, a story to tell his friends back home. He had no idea what he had just walked into. After a simple dinner of rice and stew, which he ate alone while the old woman tidied up, 2 men arrived. They came in without a sound. One was older, maybe in his 50s, with a stern, creased face. The other was younger, probably in his 40s, with a smile that was a little too wide. They introduced themselves as her sons. Let's call them the older brother and the younger brother. They spoke some English, and they were very polite, overly polite. They asked Leo where he was from, what he was studying. It was all very normal, but there was something off about their stillness. When they weren't talking, they were perfectly, unnaturally still. The younger brother must have seen the boredom on Leo's face. He smiled that wide smile again and said, "We play a game. To pass time, you know? Go stop?" He pulled out a deck of Hwatu cards. They're small plastic cards with beautiful flower illustrations on them. Leo had seen people playing it before and knew the basics. It seemed harmless. A way to be polite to his hosts. "Sure," he said, "but I don't have much money to bet." The older brother just nodded, slowly. "Is okay. Small game, just for fun." They sat on the floor in the main room, around a low wooden table. The only light came from a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling, casting long, deep shadows. The starting bet was just 1,000 won, less than $1. It really did feel like a friendly, casual game. For the first hour, everything was fine. Leo was winning. He had good luck, and he was good at remembering the cards. He built up a small pile of crumpled bills. The brothers paid out each time he won, their faces unreadable. I remember the exact moment because Leo described it so clearly. He had just won his 5th hand in a row. He laughed and said, "Maybe I should quit while I'm ahead." The younger brother was smiling, but his eyes were like chips of dark glass. The older brother hadn't smiled at all. He just watched Leo's hands, his gaze heavy and intense. And then the younger brother said the words that changed everything. He leaned forward slightly, the low light catching his face. "Cash is boring," he said, his English suddenly perfect. "Let's make it more interesting." A chill went down Leo's spine, a real physical chill that had nothing to do with the drafty old house. It was a warning. The friendly atmosphere in the room evaporated, and in its place was something cold, sharp, and predatory. The game wasn't for fun anymore. Leo should have stopped. He knew he should have. But he was 22, a little arrogant, and he was winning. He didn't want to seem like a coward. The older brother said, "We play for items, possessions." And the younger brother, without a word, took off his simple silver watch and placed it in the center of the table. Leo felt his heart start to beat faster. He looked at his own watch, a cheap digital one. He hesitated for just a second, and then he took it off and put it next to the other one. He lost that hand. Just like that. The younger brother scooped up both watches and put his back on, his smile wider than ever. The game had changed. The energy in the room was electric now, tense. Leo felt a desperate urge to win his watch back, so they kept playing. He bet his portable charger. He lost it. He bet his favorite baseball cap. Lost that too. It felt like his luck had just switched off, and the weirder things started happening. The sound of the Hwatu cards, when they slapped them down on the wooden table, started to change. It was no longer a light plastic click. It was a sharp, heavy crack, like a stone hitting stone. Every time a card was played, the sound echoed in the silent room. Leo also noticed their movements. When they gathered the cards, their hands moved in perfect, eerie unison, like a choreographed dance or a mirror image. It was too precise, not human. He felt like he had been playing for hours, but when he risked a glance at his phone, which he'd put on the floor beside him, only 30 or 40 minutes had passed. Time was moving strangely. He felt trapped in that circle of dim light, the world outside the paper screen doors ceasing to exist. At one point he looked towards those doors, and he saw a silhouette. It was the old woman. She was just standing there, on the other side of the paper screen, perfectly still, a dark, unmoving shape, not making a sound, just watching. The sight of her sent a fresh wave of ice through his veins. She wasn't the kind old woman. She was a guard, a spectator. He was sweating now, despite the cold. He had lost almost every small possession he had. He finally said, his voice sounding weak, "I'm done. I'm tired. I think I'll go to bed." He started to stand up. The younger brother's smile vanished completely. His face became a blank mask. "The game isn't over," he said. His voice was flat, empty. The older brother didn't even look up. He just gestured with one finger, tapping the table. "One more round," he said, his voice a low rumble. "We stake everything you lost. Your watch, your charger, your cap, all of it." Leo stared at him. "Against what? I have nothing left." The older brother finally lifted his head, and in the dim yellow light, Leo saw something in his eyes that made his blood run cold. It wasn't anger. It wasn't greed. It was a deep, ancient, patient hunger. "Oh, you have things left," the older brother said. "You have plenty. Let's play for a memory. Let's..." A memory. Leo just stared at them, his mind struggling to process the words. He thought it had to be a joke, a translation error, some kind of sick, twisted prank. "What memory?" he managed to ask, his voice cracking. The younger brother leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "A good one," he whispered, "so it has value. Your first kiss. Bet that memory. If you win, you take everything and you walk out the door. You can leave right now." Leo's mind was screaming, "Run, get up and run." But his body was frozen. The offer hung in the air, seductive and horrifying. He could get all his stuff back. He could just leave. All he had to do was win one more hand. He was due for a win, right? That's what every gambler thinks. He doesn't know why he agreed. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was a sliver of that stupid, youthful pride. But he nodded, once. The cards were dealt. The silence in the room was absolute. He couldn't hear the rain anymore. He couldn't hear anything except the blood pounding in his ears. He picked up his cards. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold them. He played his hand. They played theirs. It was over in less than a minute. The younger brother laid down his final card, a perfect winning combination. He lost. The older brother didn't move to take anything. He just looked at Leo, and he reached a hand across the table. He didn't touch him. His fingers just hovered in the air, a few feet from Leo's face, and made a soft, grasping motion, like he was plucking something out of the air. And Leo felt it. It wasn't a thought. It was a physical sensation. A sudden, violent, scooping emptiness inside his skull. A dizzying lurch, like his brain had been hollowed out. He gasped for air. He squeezed his eyes shut and tried to picture his first girlfriend from high school. Her name was Sarah. He could remember her name, but her face, it was gone. It was a complete and total blank. He tried to remember the moment, that awkward kiss behind the school gym. Nothing. Not a feeling, not an image, not a sound. Just a gray, featureless void where a cherished memory used to be. The panic that hit him was primal. It was a terror beyond anything he had ever known. This was real. They had physically taken something from inside his head. He let out a sound, a choked sob. He scrambled backward, away from the table, his back hitting the wall. "What did you do?" he screamed. "What are you?" The brothers just looked at him. Their faces were calm, blank, devoid of all emotion. Then, the older brother gestured back to the cards scattered on the table. His voice was quiet, unchanged. "Your turn," he said. "What will you bet next?" That was the breaking point. The fight-or-flight instinct finally kicked in, and it was all flight. Leo didn't answer. He didn't even think. He lunged forward, not at them, but at the low wooden table. With a surge of adrenaline, he flipped it over. The cards, the money, everything went flying across the room. For the first time, the brothers showed an emotion. It was fury. A sound tore out of their throats that wasn't human. A grating, furious hiss, like dry leaves scraping on stone. That 1 second of shock was all he needed. He scrambled for the front door, the large sliding screen. His hands fumbled with the wooden latch. He expected it to be locked, to be held fast by some unseen force. But it slid open easily. He ran. He burst out into the cold, rainy night and just ran. He didn't follow the path. He crashed through bushes and slid down the muddy hillside, not looking back. He didn't dare. He could feel their presence behind him, a weight in the air, a cold pressure on his back. His lungs burned. Rain and tears streamed down his face. He just kept running, fueled by pure terror. He eventually stumbled onto the paved road at the bottom of the hill, his clothes torn and covered in mud. He saw the dim lights of the village ahead and ran towards them, finally collapsing inside a small, three-sided bus shelter, where he huddled, shivering, for what felt like an eternity. He waited there until the first light of dawn broke the horizon, and the first bus of the day rumbled down the road around 6 a.m. He flagged it down, frantically. He was hysterical, babbling a crazy story to the driver about the men in the house. The driver, seeing the state he was in, called the police. An officer met him at the next town. Leo told them everything. He expected them to think he was crazy, but they listened, and they took him seriously enough to drive back to the village. He pointed out the path. He showed them the hill. The two officers went up to the Hanok. They were gone for about 15 minutes. When they came back down, their faces were strange. They told Leo that the house was there, yes, but it was derelict, abandoned. Thick blankets of dust and cobwebs covered every surface. The floorboards were rotting. There was no furniture, no sleeping mat, no low wooden table. There was certainly no sign that anyone had lived there, or even been inside, for a very, very long time. They asked one of the neighbors, an old man who had lived in the village his whole life. He told the police that house had been empty for over 30 years. Ever since the old woman who lived there and her 2 sons were lost in a fishing boat accident. We never found out who, or what Leo played cards with that night. The police report filed it as a case of exposure and distress. But Leo knows what happened. He lost his watch, he lost his charger, and he lost a memory. To this day, he still can't remember his first kiss. It's just a hole, a blank space in his life they carved out and took with them. Leo's story is a chilling one because it feels like an old folk tale come to life. In Hong Kong, our ghost stories usually happen in places that are obviously haunted. An empty apartment building, a desolate road. But this is different. This is about a danger that hides behind a welcoming face. You hear about these things in old Korean legends, about spirits or goblins, Dokkaebi, who love to trick humans, to challenge them to contests of wit or games of chance, preying on their greed and desperation. Leo wasn't just gambling for money or possessions. He was gambling against something that plays by much older rules. He was lucky he only lost a memory. It's a warning, I think. A reminder that when you travel, you are a guest in lands that might have their own secrets and their own guardians, and that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is accept a stranger's invitation to play a friendly little game. Some doors are best left unopened, and some bets you can never, ever win.